Hi there, welcome to Take It Easy VBA, the third video. And in this video, we want to start discussing an example problem statement. Of course, I could be teaching you how the do's and don'ts of coding and certain functions in VBA, but we don't want to take that approach because we don't want to overload you with so much data. So instead, we're going to look at some real problems. And for a start, let's take, for example, we want to plot a chart. So we want to have, let's say, X and Y data. Then you have 1, 2, 3. Oh, sorry. 1, 2, 3. We'll drag this down. Yep. And then you'll have some random numbers here. So I'm just going to put equal RAND, close brackets, and that'll give me some random numbers. I'm going to copy and paste the values there so they don't keep changing. So yeah, basically you want this. You want to plot a chart using a VBA scatter plot. So these are some of the random values that we have generated. Okay, but we want to use real data, of course. So we're not going to do this. We want to use something a little more, real life, so that there's some relevance to all of us. So for example, let's say I'm an investor and I want to keep track of some prices. So one of the stocks I like to look at, or one example stock perhaps, is perhaps a Keppel Corp from Singapore. Or for me, I kind of like oil stocks. So let's look at Shell, Yahoo Finance. Okay, so Royal Dutch Shell PLC RDSB. So these are some data about this is the data about some of the stocks, and in this one is the NYSE, New York Stock Exchange. Yeah, this is in USD. This is going in the US stock market, and it's now going at 64.90 US dollars. Okay, but we're not interested in that. We just want to take a look at some of the historical data. And over here, you'll see lots of data about the high and low prices of each of the stock market, each of the stocks according to the date. And we want an Excel. We want to put all of these in Excel. So what you do is you first select perhaps one of the date range. This is just a data collection part, yeah? Just select one of the date range and we press download data. This is from Yahoo Finance. So I'm going to put this in my desktop and it should be saving as an Excel separated value file. You might otherwise know this kind of file as a CSV file. So Shell stock prices, and it goes Microsoft Excel CSV file, and you just press save. And that should just download. And click that. That will open up. Okay. And this will show you all the data. Okay, perhaps in the past month. Okay, it doesn't seem to be giving me any more than the past month. But no matter. The crucial thing is that we have some kind of data to plot. So I'm just going to press copy, and I'm going to press paste in this Excel macro enabled Excel workbook, right? And now, of course, let's say I want to plot a scatter plot of, let's say, the opening price versus the date, just for the simplicity. So I'll just go to data, or insert scatter plot. There you go. Okay, or maybe not a scatter plot. You may want another kind of plot as well. Maybe something like a histogram or a line plot. So that kind of shows you the price as you go up and down, yeah. That's usually how the stock market goes from day to day. So this is the opening price versus the date. Alright, so let's say I just want to have one of these plots. Let's say I want to have like maybe five kind of charts, each plotting the high, the low price, the closing price, etc., etc. Okay, so I can just drag these around. So I just click on the chart, and when it looks at the data, I can just select this and it goes to the right, and that will kind of change all the stuff on the chart, right? But I want to do the VBA version. I don't just want to plot a chart and then have to do it manually over and over again. Let's say you want to do VBA. So what's the first step? Well, the first step, of course, let's say you have your data here. The first step probably you want to look into is to gather data. So we'll want to start recording a macro. Let's say chart of Shell stock price macro, and then this is what we will record. So I'm just going to click OK, and you should know that it's recording. If you hover over this stop button, it says a macro is currently recording. Click to stop recording. So we won't stop recording, but yeah, we just want to carry on with what we are doing. So I'm just going to click this. I want to drag it all the way down, but okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to press Ctrl Shift and go down. That will give me all the data here, and I'm going to press Shift and I'm going to tap the right button just once, and that will give me the data I want to select. So in Excel, I generally am more comfortable with using the arrow keys rather than the mouse all the time, because I feel it's faster. And of course, now that we've selected our data, we can plot a line plot. So we just use a 2D line, and that will give us the line plot. And that is it. I'm going to stop recording. So this is the first place we kind of gather data on how to write the macro. So basically, you go look in your macros, and I'm going to look at this one. This is the one we just recorded. I'm just going to press Edit. Okay, so this is our actual macro. Okay, this is our actual macro. So what does the macro actually do? Well, by right, I mean, ideally, if we've recorded it right, we should be able to get a chart just by playing this code. So I'm just going to close this. I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to play this. I'm going to play this macro. However, I find that I run into a bug here. It says runtime error. It gives me a string of random numbers. The item with a specified name wasn't found. So sometimes when you just try to record and run macros, especially when it comes to producing a chart, you may not find what you want. And that's the problem usually with programs. So don't worry, we'll take this one step at a time. So instead of ending the thing, we can press debug. Okay, so when we press the debug button, we again come back into our VBA interface where we have this string of codes, and then we find that this line is highlighted. And right now, I'm presuming we don't really know what these codes are, and that's alright. We are learning at the beginner level, so don't need to worry about that. What is crucial now is to learn some of the skills behind debugging. So I'm going to reset the macro. So yeah, I'm going to reset the macro, and now we need to understand why this code isn't running properly for us. So probably the first step you want to take is to debug the code. This is what we call debugging. It just happens so that our code is not running properly and we want to do something about it, right? I'm just going to delete this. Apparently it's run after that, I don't know why, but let's take a look. It wasn't running properly. Yep, it was not running properly, but it seems to produce this chart for us. So you don't want that happening all the time. You want it to run smoothly without that box coming at you and you're wondering like, hey, what am I supposed to do, right? So let's just do some debugging. We're going to use the step into function. Now what the step into function does actually is, the step into function actually, you can see the F8 button here. The step into function actually goes and runs the code line by line. So when you run the code line by line, you'll know what each piece of code is actually doing. So I'm just going to press F8 once, and it's going to highlight the range A1 select. Alright, so when I press F8, you can see the cursor will shift to row A1. So let's try that again. I'm going to press the reset. I'm going to press F8. F8 is the debug, which you see here. And you go press F8 and next. So it does nothing yet. It's going to select range A1, which is already doing that. And then now you see there's an active window dot small scroll down equals -5, something like that. Don't even know what that is, but let's see what it does. So we press F8. Okay, so on Excel, you're not really sure what it's doing. It doesn't seem to do anything. So, don't worry. We just assume it does nothing. It's an extra bit of code that's there for some kind of reason. But let's take a look at this next highlighted one. It says range selection, comma selection n, bracket XL down, select. So let's press F8 and see what it does. There you go. You can see that the whole left row now is selected all the way down to the 2nd of April 2018. So that's what it's doing. And now when I press the next F8 button, okay, it says range A1 B22 select. So I'm selecting the first two rows. Okay, so that's what it's doing. It's what do you call it? It's selecting the first two rows, and that's what the macro has the recorder has recorded. Okay, so now it says active windows small scroll down 20. You'll see what that does. Apparently does nothing much. We're not sure what that does. Okay, so we can ignore what we are not sure. What we have known so far is this range A1 select, range A1 to B22 select, active and this range selection select dot and XL down select. We kind of know what it does. We have a few clues as to what it does. All right. So active shapes at chart, something like that. So from the name itself, you can kind of guess. Hey, we have a clue as to what our code is doing. It's telling us to add a chart, which is what we originally wanted to do in the first place. So you're going to press F8, and what's it going to do? Oh, suddenly your chart is here. So in fact, you didn't need these four, lines of code. But in fact, just these few lines were enough. So we have all we need to get our Excel to do what we want in these highlighted lines as you've seen. And then if you press F8 now, it steps into the second part, and I press F8 again. Now there's the debug code. So we see that this is the problematic code. Yeah, we see series activator. Never mind. We see that this is the problematic code, but since we already have all we need in this first few highlighted lines, we can actually just delete all these codes, and we're just gonna press save. Okay. So I'm going to press the reset button, and let's try running the macro again. Alright, so this is what it's supposed to do. So macros, I'm going to press run. Oops, wrong one. That wasn't supposed to be there. Command will stop the debugger. I'm going to delete this macro. That was irrelevant. Okay, let's try that again. 1, 2, 3. And there you go, a chart is out. There's one button and the chart is out. Okay? Now let's go and edit this again. And we know that from previously, some of the other codes weren't actually doing much work. So some of this, like active Windows small scroll down 5, active Windows small scroll down 20. So we don't really need that at all. So basically what we can do, we can just delete that code. And how do we know that actually we don't need that kind of code? Yep, when we press the F8, the step into function, and we see that as we go across that code, that actually does nothing. So I'm just going to cancel these two lines of code. I'm going to save, and I'm going to delete the chart again. And let's try this one more time. 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Now it's going to give me exactly the same chart. So we can see that as we record macros, there are two things. One thing is that sometimes Excel will record extra things that are not really necessary. For example, you saw the scroll up and scroll down codes just now, and the last 3 lines of code that weren't actually helpful, but actually, gave us a bug. And well, we have actually learned in this video how to debug using the debug tool, which is a step into function, and we have actually already have a working macro of our chart plotting thingy. So that's already some kind of good progress. And from this you can kind of guess what these codes actually mean. So this range A1 select basically means to point your cursor to A1, and this is the control shift down, which I was doing earlier. And this A1 B22 select is, of course, indeed is to select the first 2 columns. And these two active sheets and active chart set source data something that will actually help us to plot our chart out really nicely. Okay, so actually doing VBAs isn't that difficult, because you can just get Excel to record for you, and basically you can reverse engineer the code to make it do what you want without any kind of trouble. So in actual fact, up till this point, if you've been watching the video series, you have not been typing a single line of code. All you're doing is to get Excel to record it for you. Of course, you wanna learn more about typing code. You can learn about it in the future videos. But this is just a brief handle to kind of introduce to you that VBA isn't actually that difficult. I'm just gonna close it, and yeah, thanks for watching this video. Hope to see you next time where you can learn more about VBA. Bye.